Hi guys, welcome to a Year with Trees podcast. I'm your host Fatima, a huge lover and learner of trees, and this podcast is my love letter to them. I decided to take up this project because I have so many stories about them that I would love to share with others. So come along with me, let's explore the beautiful world of trees. And while you are at it, I hope you fall in love with them as much as I do. So what are we waiting for? Let's go ahead.
The star of today's episode is a well known Indian tree, the Moringa tree. In India, our ancestors knew about its benefits and included its parts in their diet. Now, even science approves its nutritional and medicinal uses. Various researches on this tree have made it popular in the past few decades, and around the world it is marketed as a superfood and is sold as powder, capsules, and whatnots. While I cannot tell for sure how effective packaged products are, I can tell for sure that the fresh parts of this tree are indeed superfood, as we will see. But before we go into all those details, it is time for a tree story from my memory. The tree story which I am relating today begins with an aroma that is still trapped in my memory. Here I am closing my eyes and inhaling deeply, and I'm sure I can smell a whiff of sweet lychee wafting up from somewhere. Last summer, a friend of my dad had brought a carton box full of rosy lychees from his garden, and it had perfumed the house with a sweet fruity note. Later on, my dad told me about Uncle's garden, how in a small space he had many trees and plants, a mini homely orchard of sorts. Needless to say, I wished to see it. So one fine afternoon, we gave Uncle a surprise visit. He was very pleased to show us around. The moringa trees lined one side of the garden walls among curry and mango trees, and a solitary lychee tree stood in the courtyard. The flashy bird of paradise flowers waved in the gentle breeze and looked positively out of place in that rustic old garden. While chatting, Uncle brought out a hooked staff from the garden shed. It was peak fruiting season, and the lychee and moringas were laden with fruits. Some moringa branches were drooping near to the ground, easy to pick from, but many hung high above, and for that the hook staff came in handy. So while Keats swooped down on the fallen lychees, we grown up started gathering pods from the fallen branches. Soon a pile of green pods began to grow in the yard, and another pile of fresh green leaves. I remembered how fragile the branches were, so that just a tug brought them crashing down. A while back, the sky had looked crisscrossed with tangled branches, but later the view opened up to let the afternoon sunlight dapple the garden floor. It was so fun to chat and gather the fruits that we hardly realized that the sun had set. Grudgingly, we left the magical garden, but with a car boot stuffed with moringa leaves, flowers, and fruits, a basket full of lychees, and a mind full of good times. I love reliving this memory sometimes because it was such an ideal and idle summer day, full of happiness in the company of such good friends, of both humans and trees. Well, now let's learn some nice things about this tree. Actually, there are many nice things about this tree. It's not famous as a superfood and is called miracle tree for nothing. Listen yourself to believe. Moringa oleifera is a native tree to India. Its scientific name comes from Murungai, the Tamil word for the tree and its fruit. And oleifera means oil bearing, referring to its oil bearing seeds. It's also called horseradish tree because its roots taste like horseradish, and drumstick tree because its pods are long like a drumstick. In Hindi, this tree is called Sahjan or Sonjna, while in my home state Jharkhand we call it Munga. I'm sure it has many other names in other Indian languages, and no doubt its parts are used in cooking a variety of dishes. One of the major attractions of this tree, both in looks and edibility, is its leaf. The pretty leaves of moringa are compound and are thrice pinnate. This means that the leaf stalks branch thrice to which leaflets are attached. It is an odd pinnate leaf scheme, which means the tip of a stalk has terminal leaflet. Moringa is a deciduous tree. The leaves turn yellow and carpet the ground in December and January for a brief period. and shortly after, the fresh leaves begin to unfurl. The upper side of the leaves are medium green in color and undersides chalky green. The leaves of moringa are highly sought after for its nutritional benefits. Recent research has revealed how these small leaves are packed with vitamins and minerals. But people of the past didn't need science to prove this. They knew of its beneficial qualities and included the leaves not only to their diet but also to their medicinal preparations as antimicrobial and antifungal agents. The leaves add not an unpleasant bitter hint when added to dals and curries. The leaves are said to help manage blood pressure and diabetes if added to the regular diet. And as the leaves are packed with vitamin A, B, C, and K, manganese, calcium, and protein, they make a great food for new mothers and young kids alike. It's called Tree of Life or the Miracle Tree for a reason after all. I love to add the leaves to my salad and soups. The tinge of bitterness is welcome if it carries abundance of nutrition. Anyway, along with new leaves, clusters of white buds begin to dot the tree. And so the flowers start blooming, drooping all over the branches in clusters. The small moringa flowers have 5 petals and are creamy white in color with a yellow tint. The flowers have a sweet, mild fragrance similar to honey, but they taste bitter. In my hometown, we cook a curry of moringa flowers with potatoes. The flowers are boiled with a dash of salt and are strained to reduce bitterness, and then sauteed with onions, ginger, garlic, and potatoes. It's not only nutritional but tastes amazing. Perfect dish for a warm day post winter. In some places, the flowers are folded in chickpea flour batter and deep fried to make fritters. There must be many other local dishes or recipes passed on through generations which I would love to know. If you have such a recipe, do share in the comments in my blog. Anyway, back to the flowers. The flowers bloom once in a year in January to March in North India and twice in South India again in September and August. The honeybees love the trees as its flowering duration is longer and they get more nectar out of it. The honey, exclusively made of moringa flowers, has distinct woody notes. And of course, it's highly medicinal. Once the flowering is done, the green pods begin to form. The fruits of moringa are green pods and look like long sticks. When fresh, the pods are thin and bright green and snap easily. As they mature, the color lightens, the pods grow fatter and fibrous. The mature pods are thick, brownish green, and tough to bend. The fresh pods are best to eat as they are tender, absorb more juice, and are easy to chew. All over India, the pods are used in cooking soupy dishes like dal, sambar, and curries. And they taste so wholesome and healthy, there's no way to dislike any dish made with it. And even if the pod chewing business is not your deal, all the goodness of the pods do mingle with the soup and is worth having. From the mature pods, the ripe seeds are harvested to grow seedlings for cultivation. The ripe seeds are winged, and as the pods crack, the winged seeds are carried by wind or water to faraway places to take roots. The oil extracted from moringa seeds is used in cosmetics and perfumes as a preservative. The properties of moringa oil is similar to olive oil, yet moringa oil is not yet popular enough to be used commonly. Another interesting thing about this tree is that its seeds and extracts can be used as an effective water purifier too, similar to alum. Now, the bark of the moringa is light brown and corky, which means it has visible cracks. Young trees too have smoother barks than older ones. The moringa is a softwood tree, and as the name means, its wood is soft and cannot be used as timber. But the wood pulp is used to make paper. Moringa is a fast growing tree and easily becomes straggly and out of reach, and the fragile branches may crash down in storms. For these reasons, after fruiting season, the branches are pollarded, which is its upper branches are removed, or the trunk is coppiced, which is the trunk is cut down to the stump. The tree puts out new shoots fast enough and grows back tall by the next flowering season. This practice is done both in cultivation and home gardens to ensure that the tree is easy to maintain and harvest and it produces more leaves, flowers, and fruits. As any home gardener knows, cutting the top portion of a plant forces it to branch more and hence increases productivity. There's an interesting science behind it, which I would love to cover in some other episode. For now, back to dear Moringa tree. The native habitat of Moringa is southern Himalayan regions where it grows in moist and nutrient rich soil. It's a small to medium tree with straight trunk and thin, either loppy tangled branches or vertical branches if pollarded yearly. This tree can tolerate a wide range of soil and climate and grows throughout Indian subcontinent in natural conditions and is cultivated all around the world. Not to mention it's drought resistant. All these reasons make it a great tree to plant in backyards, roadsides, and empty plots in native Indian soil. As it's a tree that can help tackle ongoing climate crisis by cooling temperatures, locking soil, handling food shortages, being used as a primary nutrition source, and so on. Not to forget, this tree is ecologically important to many animals and insects as they depend on it as a food source and shelter. But there is a catch. This tree sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, it is good, that's the truth. But there are other truths. First of all, no single food item is sufficient for all dietary needs, no matter how miraculous. We all know that. And many times, medicinal properties of a tree are not sufficient to manage specific illness or disease. Also, anything good should be consumed in moderation. In case of moringa leaf, it contains calcium oxalate. Excess consumption of it can be toxic, and hence moderation is the key. And then there is a truth about this tree which makes me feel sad, which is that the tree does not live long, only for up to 20 years. From a tree perspective of lifespan, this duration is super short, and that is the bitter truth in this sweet tale of a tree. Well, in life, there's no perfect story. From all the above things that I talked about this tree, it becomes easy to identify it. Look for a medium height tree with sparse crown and thin branches. The hanging green fruit pods that look like sticks are unmistakable, and so are the clusters of small, drooping yellow white flowers. The best identifier is, of course, its leaves. The thrice pinnate small leaves are dead giveaways. For the short duration when it sheds leaves, it may be hard to identify it, but the shape of a tree is a good identifier too. Just look for a tree that has straight trunk with thin upper branches that are tangled or point up straight towards the sky. The bark can also be used to identify it. Pale brown bark with corky surface. And that's your moringa tree. And that's all for today's episode. For this episode, I refer to several field guides, books, and journals for tidbit of info and my own observations. You can find a list of resources in my blog, which I usually refer to for my scripts. You can find the link to my blog in the About tab. Do subscribe to the podcast in app of your choice and share this podcast for the sake of tree love. Also, your reviews are very welcome. Thank you all. Stay tuned.